Hello, my name's host Eric. I am here with famous person Theo, and he is an INTP that I spoke with months ago, and he's back, and I'm speaking to him again, and I think that's great. And we are going to talk today a little bit about this notion that I had this morning, which is that introverted, you can determine introverted intuition and extroverted intuition in music by whether or not you have to pay attention to it to notice that it's good. So if you achieve introverted intuition quality in musical stuff, in my opinion, that means it's the sort of song that you won't be paying attention to it, and you just find yourself enjoying the song and be like, what the hell is this thing? This is a really good song. That's introverted intuition kind of quality. Extroverted intuition quality is much more tricky, fancy, a little gimmicky, and or skills oriented rather than truth oriented. And so musically, it's the sort of thing that requires you to actively pay attention to it and see what the person's doing to appreciate it. It's less intuitively true, and it's more demonstrably, as in a demonstration of skills. It's more demonstrable and less.
So would you say like like rapping, like if a rapper is very lyrical and but the music doesn't just immediately touch people, they have to reflect on it in order to appreciate it, would you say that that's an exhibition of extroverted intuition?
Correct. Exactly, and exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about. So if you look at Eminem, you can take two examples of two Eminem songs that are, one is more extroverted intuition, which would be like Rap God, which is really technically skilled but isn't a very good song, and isn't really ultimately a very good rap because it doesn't tell any sort of story or anything. It just demonstrates chops, you know. Yeah. Versus a song like Lose Yourself, which is has a very introverted intuition, cadency driven thing about it. But a better example of an NI song, because I think Eminem has a lot of NE. I think he's probably an ENTP, is my theory about it. I've had a lot of people give me a lot of pushback on that notion. But a good example of an NI rapper who I believe is an INFJ is Kendrick Lamar. And if you listen to like a song like King Kunta that goes, "I got a bone to pick," and it waits, you know, nothing happens, right? For a second. Yeah. And then it goes, "I'm tired of these monkey mouth motherfuckers sitting in my throne again." And then he pauses and he waits, right? These are like little musical phrases. They're not complicated verbal acrobatics.
Yeah. So what would you say about pop music? Do you think pop music is more of an introverted intuition thing?
I think good pop music is. I think good music in general prioritizes introverted intuition and uses extroverted intuition as the thing that finalizes the truths of introverted intuition and makes them distinct, unique, interesting, and not just boring, same old thing. So it's like, well, an example would be
there's a Nas song. I was thinking of a Nas song. I think that the lyrics actually double over if you repeat them backwards. It's actually like two songs in one. Would you say that's like an extroverted intuition thing?
For sure, 100%. It's very constructed and thought out, right? You can go backwards and figure out where it came from. I can do that with my own stuff too. I don't usually spend too much time writing lyrics anymore. When I did write lyrics, they tended to come out too precious, you know, too crafted. And so now I tend to freestyle lyrics, and then I'll go back and fix them. So an example of this was, I have this song called, it's called "If a Week From Now We're an Open Flower." And it goes, "If a week from now we're an open flower, and tomorrow afternoon a bee, nature would never," and then it originally said something like, I don't remember what the original lyrics were, and I changed it to "Form Democracy." So everything else in that was a freestyled lyric, but I changed that to give it a certain lyrical depth that worked with the other stuff in a weird way that I liked. That's a little change that I made with NE to basically an NI freestyled under 2 minute long song that I think is quite a good and accomplished introverted intuition instance, which is the best you can do.
have you heard that for a lot of musicians, their music comes to them in their dreams?
Well, I've heard a lot of musicians do have music dreams. I certainly do, but I don't. Those aren't. That's not where the songs come from. That's not where I get my material from.
Okay.
And I think some people have different ways of accessing it. For me, I had to break down extroverted intuition as the thing that was constantly in my way, wanting to make things fancier, wanting to make things trickier, wanting to make things more constructed, wanting to have my hands on the reins rather than just letting shit happen.
Yeah.
Another distinction between NI and NE I'd make is that NI is going to manifest musically as trying to get the thing that you're doing to sound perfect. So to get each chord to strum out and sound out perfectly, to get the pitch on the vocals perfect, to get each word and phrase and syllable sounding exactly how it ought to sound to be the most perfect manifestation of that single truth. Whereas NE has this mistaken notion that those things don't really matter as long as I get the idea out. You'll get the idea and appreciate how cool the idea is. There's that instinct in extroverted intuition. I think it's a false instinct, and it's got to be resisted and fought against.
Would you say that this also applies to making videos?
I don't know. I will tell you this. I do know and acknowledge right off the bat that my own instincts regarding aesthetics of visual stuff are very poor. So it's taken me a long time just to even put up this blue thing behind me and realize it matters that people don't look at a big mess behind you, Eric. People care about that. It's in their field of vision, you know?
Well, what I was thinking was more in the lines of communicating something in a video.
Okay, well, the language aspect of it is, there's a certain similarity to it, but it plays out differently in the sense that, yes, a video that is a spoken video can be more or less successful according to its own little metric. For example, this video is successful to the extent that we stay on topic and continue to explore and provide new insight to the distinction between extroverted intuition and or introverted intuition and or the metacognition process, which is what we're talking about right now, of that distinction being made. So to the extent that this video is effective, it's concise, it stays on topic, and it provides insight that people haven't considered before. So for example, if we wanted to try to achieve this video as an instance of perfection or as close to perfection as possible according to its own aesthetic metric, we'd either end it now or end it after one little last segment, which is what I want to do because I have an idea in mind which I wanted to sort of demonstrate something.
Okay.
So I got this to demonstrate a principle basically on the guitar, which is the idea that when I was learning to play guitar and I was trying to like solo over something, I would be very notey, and so I'd play over a rhythm or something and go like all over the fretboard. But what my INFJ friend Corey showed me, or what I stole from him or picked up from him, was he'd find that same rhythm and he'd find start off with just one or two notes to go over it and just figure out the lead as a rhythmic element almost. You'd go, you know, and get that settled in and get that sounding exactly how he wants it to sound. And then sort of build from that. So that's an introverted intuition sort of way to do it. Like, okay, well, if I only had two notes to play, what would I do with it rhythmically over this to make it interesting, to make it seem like a unique element and distinct element? And keep it exactly the same way every time until you get that idea set, right? That little idea set. And then basically take that as a notion of how components in a musical arrangement ought to be. Teeny little perfect ideas that fit in a certain arrangement just so. And that the biggest downfall of most musicians who use extroverted intuition is they're always going to make these elements too complicated and too fancy and too much shit. And it's still my struggle. So that's my thoughts on NE and NI. And how did I do that? Fucking space objects. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. Any thoughts or other notions regarding this topic from from Theo here or any of the other simple famous people?
Nothing's coming to my mind.
Okay, well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope we were concise and fulfill those criteria that we highlighted within the episode itself.